What's up, YouTube? So, in this video, I'm going to be going over my top 5 defensive linemen from the 2023 NFL Draft. And I'm not talking about edge rushers. I have made a separate video for edge rushers. Right now, I'm talking specifically about 3-techs, 3-4 defensive ends, nose tackles, things of that nature. So, yeah. Starting off with Calijah Kancey from Pittsburgh, 6 foot, 280 pounds. Not a very long player, especially for D-line. And that can hurt you a little bit, but it also can be helpful, especially on the interior. Because just leverage-wise, being lower than your opponent can help. And he is very explosive and very productive. Can get pushed around a little bit because of his lack of size, and I do think just generally getting stronger would help. But has a very good motor. And I think you can use him as a passing down 3-tech for sure in a 4-3 scheme. I don't really want to see him on rundowns very often. He's just not that kind of guy. You could also maybe try him out as an edge rusher and see what happens. Changes direction very quickly. Relies mostly on his athleticism. He's kind of a niche player, but I do think he is a fun player for sure. Bring him in on passing downs as a 3-tech, like I said, and hopefully you can make him get a little bit bigger as he progresses, and I think he might be able to evolve into something more. Right now I see him more as a 4th round kind of guy, but, you know. Moving on, Carl Brooks from Bowling Green, 6'3", 303 pounds. Obviously at Bowling Green, competition is pretty low, but one thing I have always said about players coming from smaller schools. If you're going to be coming from a smaller school like Bowling Green, you better be bullying those people that aren't football players in real life. They're going to be accountants, bartenders, whatever they're going to be. And he does that. Very quick, has very good hands, solid feet to him, moves well and has counters when his opponent deals with whatever his first move is. Pretty solid bull rush to him. I see him more as a 3-tech, but you could probably get away with him being a 3-4 defensive end, but most likely his best fit would be as a 3-tech in a 4-3 scheme. I like this guy a lot, and I think 3-tech is pretty hard to find in this league, and I think he's a pretty solid one. I see him more as a 3rd round kind of guy, though. Moving on to my only actual nose tackle on the list, Siaki Ika from Baylor, 6'4", 358 pounds. Would probably lose a little bit of weight at the NFL level, most likely. He's not going to give you much in the way of pass rush. I mean, he's a nose tackle. Has a decent swim move when he wants to, though. Can absolutely eat up double teams and doesn't get moved at all. Will get his hands up to bat balls down, strong as fuck. Has some anger to him, some tenacity to him. Fun nose tackle. I think he can play 1-tech in a 4-3 scheme, and I think he can also play 0 if you're a 3-4 team. I see him as a 3rd round guy just because I think that's where really solid 3-techs tend to go. Not a great athlete. You're pretty much just going to use him in the run game. But he can pull cloth a little bit. And like I said, he has a little bit of a swim move to give you some sort of pass rush ability. But I like him. I like him well enough. Can 2-gap as well if you're thinking about as a 0. So, yeah. Moving on. Bryan Bresee from Clemson, 6'5", 305 pounds. And this is a tough one because he tore his ACL in 2021. And before the injury, he was a dynamic, explosive 3-tech that was super slashy and super deadly as a pass rusher. But after that, after the ACL injury, he's lost a lot of his explosiveness. But he's still a solid player even now. Good ball get off, especially before the injury. Plays with some pretty good control. Holds his blocks pretty well and can take on double teams. I see this guy one way. Well, I'm trying to think about how to word this. Before the injury, I seen this guy as a clear, dominant 3-tech in a 4-3 scheme. Like, truly dominant and should absolutely go, like, top 10 in the NFL. If he can return to that in the NFL draft, if he can return to that form, this guy can be an absolute monster. But if he continues being how he was last year, then I still see him as a solid 3-4 defensive end that can play with control and can give you a little bit of pass rush as well. And he is a very tenacious player, holds his gap very well. And either way, I think he's going to be a pretty good player for you regardless. Hopefully he doesn't re-injure himself. That would definitely make things a lot worse. But, yeah. Anyway, moving on to number 1. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised. Jalen Carter from Georgia, 6'3", 300 pounds. Solid-ass ball get-off. Apparently he has some off-the-field issues, but this guy is a fantastic fucking player. Amazing swim move, strong as fuck, plays with great control, really good hands. Will defeat the hands and rip under the arm. Fantastic interior pass rushing skills. Good cloth pull. Will also pull down on your hands. Can play multiple positions. He can actually take snaps at 1 tech if you're not looking for a 3 tech. Would be a really good 3-4 defensive end for sure. But if you're asking me where I want him the most, is at 3 tech. And if you got a creative coach that is running a 4-3 scheme, and maybe you want to, on passing downs, bring in a 3rd defensive end and let them play 3 tech, then you could slide this guy right over to nose tackle at 1 tech and have 3 defensive ends and still... This guy's such a monster. Ideally, though, I just want you to line this guy up in B-gap and let him destroy the offense. That's what I want him to do. That's all I want him to do. If you let him do that, he's going to be an amazing fucking talent. So, yeah. Anyway, the only position I wouldn't really want him in, obviously don't put him at edge, obviously. And don't make him like a straight up 0 tech in a 3-4. If he's on a 3-4 team, have him play defensive end. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, appreciate hitting that like button. Have any questions or comments in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.